Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 1, episode 22. As a lot of you guys know, this week, because some of your requests, I've decided to make this whole week all about financial education and business mindset and basically everything that I'm passionate about sharing with everybody. Because a lot of you guys know that this is something that I've been doing for not just myself, however, for a lot of many other people. And I know some people are like, why aren't you really sharing your credentials just a little bit? It's not really my style a lot of the times. However, I know for some of you it is very important. So I'm going to break out of my shell just a little bit today and talk about it. And maybe it's very Canadian of me, maybe this is very Taiwanese of me. I don't know. Something is kind of inside me is kind of going, yeah, you don't have to brag. At the same time, I understand, especially when we're talking about money, financial future, financial independence, financial freedom. A lot of you guys, especially if you and I have never met before, it's important for you to know a little bit just about how I do what I do and what I have accomplished, especially with others. And so how I fell into all of this, honestly though, was nothing glamorous because like a lot of people, I was taught to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and a job that's going to give you good benefits and maybe stock options, as well as RSPs and savings and bonuses and all that kind of stuff. And I did all that. And so that was great. At the same time, what really happened was as you climb the corporate ladder pretty fast, usually you tend to work a whole lot more. And we always had this joke back in the corporate world amongst our colleagues, which really was the fact that championing means working way more for about the same pay. And not just about the same pay, for the exact same pay. Basically, you're expected to always go above and beyond just so that when the promotion time comes, you might get considered and you might get promoted. And so that was really the career trajectory that I was on. And like all of you guys, I'm pretty sure we all have very strong work ethics because honestly though, leading up to this point in my life, I don't think I've really met anybody whose parents taught their kids to not work hard and to not apply themselves, really. So did that, and it got to the point where, again, 3 years into my career, I was kind of thinking, hey, you know what? I'm making pretty decent money. I mean, I started making six figures in my mid 20s. And, like a good Asian kid, I was putting money away. I think I was probably on some level minus the tax portion. And well, we're Canadians, so we pay a lot in taxes. So, and a lot of the government benefits, pensions, and all that. So I think I'm pretty much was stashing about 50% of what I would make gross income wise away. And so I was feeling okay at the same time, like most people. Again, it starts to make you feel like you're a little choked, as in, well, even though you make decent money, you don't actually clear a lot and you tend to spend pretty much every last penny that you make as well. And so that's sort of the lifestyle that I was on, lived pretty well, ate pretty well, traveled pretty well, drove pretty well. And what happened was about 3 years into that, and this was when life started to get serious, or I mean, career started to get a little serious, and went into management. And what happened really was the fact that one day, and this was about 2009, and a lot of you guys remember what happened in the year 2008. Global financial crisis. For some of you who might be watching you're a little young, don't remember what that was like, maybe just Google a few things about what was happening around that time. Because funny enough, what's happening right now with COVID feels like we're going through that all over again. So basically, looked at some of my retirement statements. So at this point, again, I wasn't really all that active in making decisions about what I was parking my money in because I was buying company stocks. Might be a good time to tell you I worked for the Yellow Pages group. And so the company stocks were actually going down in value year after year ever since I joined. However, because they matched. So like a good boy, I always maximized my contribution from every single paycheck towards that. And in addition to that, I was setting up RSPs, and the moment TFSAs was instated in the country, I started contributing to that as well. And so 2009 happened, and I started going, you know what? I'm looking at my statements and I'm thinking, you know what? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the fact that, even though I'm making good money, I'm stashing away some good money right now as directed, it's not growing. It is not growing at the rate it needs to be growing so that I can retire, forget about nicely, just comfortably. And geez, I still got about 30 years of my working life ahead of me. What's going to happen? And I have zero control over it. And so it was at that time I decided, you know what? Maybe it's time to actually look into real estate because nothing else really came to mind. I've always been intrigued by real estate. And at this point, honestly, though, I was a bit of an accidental landlord because I did have a condo back in Burnaby in the Lower Mainland in BC. And then when we moved to Edmonton, we actually bought our first house here. So like a lot of people, that was the traditional way of thinking. If you can afford to keep the previous house when you move out of it, rent it out, hang on to it for the rest of your life, right? For as long as you can, so that the mortgage gets paid down and then 20, 30 years later, you have free and clear property and you're going to be all set, right? These days, you probably need a little bit more depending on the markets that you are in. And so that was really my beginning point. And even though that condo was not cash flowing, I was actually paying into it. However, at the time, it didn't matter to me. So looking back now, every time I'm sharing this story, I'm just thinking, man, boy, was I naive back then. And that was really every single word that's coming out to describe that story really describes the story of somebody who is completely financially uneducated. And so what happened was I decided to ask one of my coworkers because she's about my mom's age and she has a great lifestyle. And I'm just always thinking, you and we're in the same position. We probably make about the same amount of money. Little did I know, probably not, because she's been around a lot longer. At the same time, though, what I really fundamentally forgot at the time is the fact that she's got a lot more life experience. She's got a lot more runway to build her wealth now at this point. And so again, young mind didn't think that far. However, the point is, I asked her, how do you invest your money? How do you get to have the lifestyle that you do? And I don't get to do that because even though we make the same amount of money. And she goes, well, you know what? We've been investing in real estate. And in my mind, right off the bat, I'm thinking, ding, 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 jackpot. Because that's exactly the investment vehicle that I was looking for. So I got a referral and I sat down, I went to an appointment with a guy who is, looking back now, is what we would call doing a syndication deal on a commercial development project in Saskatchewan, right here in Canada. Because I know a lot of you guys are watching from all over the world, thanks to a lot of you guys sharing. And so that's right here in Canada, in Saskatchewan. And it was around December time of 2009. And so looking back now, I was probably one of the last batch where they did that too, because when I went to the meeting, I basically was already pretty much pre-sold, I'll say, because the guy basically sat down with me, whipped out this really nicely done glossy marketing package that explains the deals. And really, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And so at the end of that meeting, he asked me, are you in? And I basically said, yep. And I whipped out my checkbook. And that tells you how old I am. I whipped out my checkbook and wrote a check over and handed it to him. And that was literally every penny that I had saved up. Because that amount not only was coming out of, hey Marco, that amount was not only coming out of my savings at the time, I was cashing out my TFSAs and I was cashing out my RSPs. Why? Because I was looking at my statements from my RSPs and TFSAs and they were growing at 1% or 2% at the time. And here I am thinking, you know what, if you guys know the rule of 72, if you don't, let me know, we can go over it in the next few sessions as well. I'm thinking, oh my God, based on the rule of 72, at 2% right now, that's going to take me 36 years for my money to double. How many 30-year blocks do we each have in this lifetime? If you're lucky, 3, 4, maybe, I don't know. And you got to remember, I've had 3 heart attacks, 2 at this point actually, leading up to this point of my life. And I'm just thinking, life is way too precious. Life is way too short. And so basically handed the money over. And about a month later, I was super excited to get my deed certificate in the mail. And I did get something from a law firm. However, what I got was actually not my deed certificate. It was a notice basically saying that the developer had taken everybody else's money and ran. And so they're now deciding whether or not the investors are going to come together and start a class act lawsuit to hopefully recuperate some of that money. Now, the long story short of that is that I actually decided not to be a part of that. However, I'm so glad that I actually went to that info session to learn about what it was all about. The funny thing is, the moment I walk in, and this is one of those moments that you'll always remember, and even more so than my heart attacks, I'm gonna be honest with you. I walk in, and very quickly I realize that I'm either one of the youngest people, if not the youngest person in that room. Why? Because everybody else was likely in their 50s or 60s or 70s. I don't know if there's anybody else in their 80s at that point. And people were obviously, feeling disappointed, feeling betrayed, feeling angry. Those were understatements, because I'm witnessing 70-year-olds pounding on boardroom tables, crying and howling and asking the lawyers how they're going to get their entire life's work back. Some of them are saying, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to put food on the table? And some of them were saying things like, I might as well go and jump off a bridge. And and I'm very grateful to have witnessed that, because I walked away from that meeting and I realized, you know what? I'm not going to join a part of that, because everybody else deserves to get their money back before me. Because at the end of the day, I'm younger and I can still work my little asset off and make it back. And that's kind of what I was telling myself at the time. I walked away from it. However, it imprinted in my mind and of what happened. However, I don't know. Do you guys have those moments where you're numb, you're shocked, and you're lost all at the same time? Because that's exactly how I'm feeling at this particular point in my life. I'm thinking, great, I'm working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks right now. That was every last penny of my hard-earned dollars over the last 3 years at this point. What do I do next? What do I do now? How do I trust another person? How do I invest? Do I go back to mutual funds? Do I go back to the banks? I don't want to. I really don't want to. And I'm not sure about every single one of you that's watching this. However, personally, I really do believe that everything happens for a reason. And what I mean by that is, about a couple of weeks later, as I'm driving for a work appointment, this ad comes on and it says, hey, do you want to learn how to invest in real estate? And I'm going in my head, hell yeah! I want to learn about how to invest in real estate, because I lost all my money in there. And, a little bit of background story is also the fact that growing up, I kind of watched my mom lose money in real estate. And yet everybody else out there, it seems, all made money from real estate. And so I just don't understand. So a compound effect of everything that happened in my life, it really intrigued me. So I landed myself in a seminar, one of those, and it was actually my very first one. However, again, I am so glad that I went, because that was the moment of a life-altering decision. So in June 2010, I decided to invest in my financial education, learning how to leverage real estate investing as that vehicle to build a business, to generate monthly income and create long-term wealth for myself. However, the most important thing though, at that point in my life, was about control. And when I mean control, I don't mean being a control freak or being OCD about things. It was simply control over my money, and more importantly, my financial future. Because the entire time I was just thinking, okay, yeah, you know what? I can still work. I can continue to work. So that's great, because I still got my whole life ahead of me. Not counting the third heart attack, because who knew that was going to happen? However, in my mind, I'm thinking, wait, well, great. Even if I work for the next 30, 40 years, if I don't know what I'm doing with investing, this can still happen again. And so I think that concept shocked me to my very core. And keep in mind, I made an investment in myself that day that I will always be grateful for. And that's also why when the third heart attack happened and when I got laid off a year after my recovery, I could declare financial freedom because of the education that I got. And I think this is also why so many people, they ask, why are you so passionate about this? And I'm going to just make a declaration right now. I'm going to be pushing this as in elevating the financial literacy in the general public for as long as I am living and for as long as I am breathing. Because of financial freedom, I was able to take time off to fully recover after I was laid off from depression, from my heart attack, and I was able to take care of my health. I know it's really funny because some of you guys are commenting about the fact that, thanks for noticing. I did work really hard to look healthy and to be healthy and to feel healthy physically over the last 8 years. And it's all because there is the time freedom that I got to do it. And this is why I keep saying, you know what, financial education is not about making a lot of money. It's all about what that money can do and the meaning that it can create for you in your life. Because no amount of money can buy that for you. And everybody really defines success and meaning and purpose differently in their own lives anyway. And this is why I really truly want and hope that everybody gets to experience that. And so a little bit of background story about that. And so from a rap sheet perspective, a lot of you guys already know lease options, were commonly known as rent to own in Canada, is my baby strategy. And we really started out building this right here in the Alberta market. This is where we live because the market was actually doing fairly well at the time. It was slowly going up. However, because of that one strategy, it allowed us to push ourselves outside of a comfort zone and start to find joint venture partners and private investors to come in to team up on deals together. And more importantly, because of that, we were able to start to talk to investors that might be a little scared to go into private investing opportunities, because most people are really brainwashed to go into RSPs, mutual funds, and just what the banks are offering, or even what the bigger financial planning organizations are planning and so are selling. And so we were able to start to build small relationship and helping investors invest maybe just $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 at a time, and the money is going into real estate. And why we love real estate, and think about this, 95% of the world's millionaires and billionaires either started in real estate or they park their money in real estate for this very reason. Because it's hard asset. You can see it, you can touch it. And once again, like my great mentor Pip always said, doesn't matter. I mean, back in 2008, first generation of iPhones, that was just what, 12 years ago. We don't care. We don't know actually, even a year from now, what kind of phones Apple and Androids are gonna come up with. No idea. However, what we know for sure is that at the end of the day, every single one of us on this planet ideally needs a roof over our head every single night to rest. And so this is why yesterday I sort of mentioned food, clothing, shelter. Food, clothing, shelter. Shelter is the one that we choose right off the bat. And the other thing is leverage, leverage, leverage. Think about it this way. If you want to play in the stock market, if you want to buy even mutual funds, and mutual funds, funny enough, is what the bank keeps on selling you on. And yet, if you want to go into the bank and say, hey, you know what, I want to take out a loan. Great, what's the purpose of the loan? Well, the purpose of the loan is for me to invest in mutual funds. You're not going to get that loan usually if you're that honest about it. However, if you walk into the bank and say, hey, you know what, I want to take out a loan, and that money is going to go into real estate investing opportunities, they will say, awesome, how much is it? Let us see the listing. Let us see your offer. And at the very best, we're going to give you up to 80% loan to value. So what that means is your buying power right there at 80% loan to value. That means you've just increased your buying power 5 times right off the bat. And that's why we love real estate. And because of real estate, it's allowed us to actually build other businesses over the year as well. And a lot of you guys know about Trust Your Talent right now. And this is why it definitely is a passion project. We're going to keep this moving forward because I really, truly think that every single household needs to understand the importance, especially when the world is changing. With COVID happening right now, it's a great sign for everybody to really come to that realization that, hey, you know what, the traditional way of looking at money, of earning money, of making money, delegating, investing money, they're no longer as applicable as what we need to be doing today. So That's really a true passion project for me. Now, a quick rap sheet for you. Other than lease options, we did private lending, and that's basically coast to coast as well. We are focusing a lot more on infills and land developments these days. We've done land assemblies, and we've also done syndications ourselves. And I think I said flip already, and also apartment building buying, and we've also done auction buying, flips, mobile home parks. And a lot of you guys know 3 years ago we decided to go and build a portfolio in the UK as well. So we've gone into student housing, or what they call HMO, and regular income property, single family homes as well, and also private lending. And so again, that's just a rap sheet for some of you who have never met me, or we have not met yet. And I really hope that COVID ends soon. For those of you who know me, I'm like, I just want to go out there and interact with you. And just that's really it, what I want to share with you today. However, the last thing I want to touch on though is this, because I know some of you guys texted me and messaged me in private, and you're like, some stuff didn't sit very well with me. You know what? Good. Because I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear when it comes to stuff like this. And I think too oftentimes, and we're too nice. And just like earlier, like I said, it's hard. I mean, I've still focused more on sharing a little bit about my background rather than what I've actually accomplished in terms of my portfolio, just because I know we're really shy, and we all want to be nice. And as Canadians, we're all nice. And again, I'm not saying if you're not Canadian, you're not nice. All I'm saying is, if this rattled you a little bit, awesome, because that means this is your time now to examine how your relationship is like with money. And this is why I named yesterday's first episode on talking about this. What's your relationship like with money? Are you in an abusive relationship with money? Because so many people, they're actually in what we would call the poor mindset, and not know that they're in it, because they're thinking, hey, you know what? I'm putting money away in my savings account. I'm putting money away in my CPP. I'm putting money away in my RSPs and TFSAs. I am set. I am good. However, again, when the market goes down, do you have any control over any of those things? Do you have any control over what the bank is telling you, how much they're going to pay you on interest? Here's a quick thing that one of my friends asked me a few weeks ago. Hey, you know what? We were supposed to go on a vacation. However, COVID happened. So what that means is, hey, we got $5,000 stashed away right now. We want to invest. What should we invest in? Okay. Oh, sorry. The question was, we want to invest, or should we pay down our mortgage? Right off the bat, I'm thinking you guys already know what I'm saying, what my answer would be. No, you do not, especially during COVID. Think about it. Do we get to control the value? Okay. If you put down $5,000 into paying down your mortgage right now, and then the next week comes around and your value drops by $5,000, guess what? You know what? I probably would have been more fun burning the $5,000 in $5 bills in a campfire than paying the mortgage down. The idea is always invest. Make your money work for you at every turn. And I know that's going to rattle a few people, and I'm just going to leave you with this thought, simply because that is exactly what we think as trained professional investors. Never ever pay down your mortgages if you don't have to. So I'm going to end today's session on this note. And tomorrow, as you know, every single day, Monday to Friday, I'm going to come back to you Facebook Live at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time, and 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to continue this train. Lots and lots of stuff I would like to share with you. And as you guys can see, I'm super pumped about this. So I hope you're with me throughout this entire journey. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great evening and pre-Happy Canada Day. I will still be here with you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.